What is happening, everyone? Welcome to another edition of In the Studio with Spicy G. Today we're going to be talking about how to finish a song. Let's do it.
Spicy G.
All right, let's say you wrote a song that you loved. You poured hours and hours into the writing of the song, the lyrical content of the song, and the production of the song. So what comes next? Many people have this same question, and I'm going to tell you right now how a song is supposed to be finished. All right, so the first thing we want to do is make sure that we are really done with all the recording that needs to be done. That means any instruments, any vocals, any overdubs, all that stuff has been completed. Next, we want to make sure all the production elements are finished. Any transition materials, downlifters, uplifters, anything that needs to be in should be put in now before we are ready to finish the song. So let's go ahead and make sure that's done. And finally, before we get into finishing the song, we want to print or bounce down the song in its current version right now, just so we have a reference. All right, what are the steps to finishing a song? The first step is going to be making sure that our vocals are tuned. Now, some of you may have done this in an earlier stage in the recording process. I personally do it right before I start doing my final stage of production. But it is really important to make sure all the vocals are tuned correctly. Whether it's hard tuning, like with auto-tune, or it's mild, just simple correction with Melodyne, you want to make sure that your vocals are in tune. Now that your vocals are in tune, I recommend you bounce it down one more time so that you have your recording with the corrected vocals. Now the next stage of finishing a song is the mixing process. What is mixing? We hear lots of people talk about how they need to get their song mixed or their song is being mixed. Well, the mixing process, think of it as the micro of the recording process. The mastering, which will be the next stage after mixing, will be the macro, but the mixing is going to be the micro. So we're going to take a look at every single track you have, whether it be one track or 1,000 or whatever. Every single track we're going to take a look at, make sure that it's EQ'd properly, compressed, and we're going to talk about some of these things that happen on the track. We're going to make it so we take a scalpel and kind of carve out its little spot in the frequency range. These are the things that are involved with mixing. The first thing, and one of the most important things in mixing, is going to be the EQing of each individual track. Okay? Specifically, you're going to be taking out low end from certain tracks. You're going to be taking out high end. You're going to be shaping each individual track so that it sits nicely in the frequency spectrum. Next, most tracks are going to be compressed, right? Compression, again, for those of you who don't know, there's tons of videos online to find out what compression is. But in the short, it is basically reducing an instrument's dynamic range. So it's going to take this loud part and it's going to shrink it down so that it's much closer to the soft so that you can boost the overall volume. In the mixing stage, you're also going to be dealing with panning, whether that particular track goes to the left or the right or in the center. These are all things that will happen during the mixing stage, and it's up to you or the mixer to determine what side you'd like to put that particular track on. Finally, you're going to be dealing at the end of the mixing process with balancing all the tracks together. So everything should really sit really comfortably. Nothing should be standing out in the track. It should be sitting the way you want. You should be able to hear the vocals clearly. You should be able to hear solos clearly. And it's really the final time you're going to get a chance to balance the recording. Notice I didn't say loud. This is not the stage where you're going to be boosting the overall volume of your project. If you're not comfortable with mixing your own record, that's okay. Many people send their songs out to be mixed by someone else. It could be a friend of theirs. It could be just a professional mixer. Of course, professional mixers cost a lot of money, but it ranges all over the place. A cheap mixer could charge $100 to mix a song, and an expensive mixer can charge you anywhere up to like $7-8 grand just for one song to be mixed. At the end of the mixing process, you're going to be bouncing the mix down. Once you bounce it down, it'll be down to one stereo file, and that will be then sent to the master, or for yourself, whoever's going to be mastering it, to start mastering the project. Should you send it to an external mixer? Well, if you can afford to do that, sure. It's always great to have another set of ears on your recording, someone who's separated from the project. However, if you're trying to do it on a budget and you've learned how to mix, you can just do it all yourself. Following mixing is going to be the mastering process. Now, we spoke about this a little bit earlier. This is really considered the macro. We're not going to be doing anything to individual tracks. As a matter of fact, in the mixing phase, we bounced everything down to one file, one stereo file. During the mastering stage, there's going to be another EQing phase. Since we only have one track, we're going to be EQing the overall track. We're only going to be making small moves when doing EQ and generally in mastering. You'll also find another round of compressing inside the mastering session. A lot of times, mastering engineers will use what's called a multi-band compression. So they're going to take certain specific bands in the EQ frequency, and they're going to be compressing those bands of the overall recording. Finally, the last stage in the mastering process is going to be the limiting, which is the daddy of all compressors. This compressor is going to compress the entire track. It's called the brick wall limiter, and it's not going to let any volume go over it so that you can shrink the overall dynamic range of the whole song, and then you can really jack up the volume to your desire. This is the part of the process where volume is really boosted up so that you don't have to turn your fader up real high or your volume knob up real high to listen to the song. If you haven't learned how to master or you don't feel comfortable with it, there's plenty of people out there who master. Lots of recording engineers do mixing and mastering. There's specific mastering engineers, and mastering is the final stage in the actual song process. Finally, after the song's been mastered and it's been bounced down to its final version, that's really the end of the song process. And then the last process I put down here in finishing a song is knowing where that song is going to go. Is it going to be for distribution to a label, or are you going to release it independently? Is it going to be for pitching to an artist, or is it going to be used for licensing for a TV or film? And now you know how to finish a song. And we're just about out of time, so if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to hit me down in the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Peace.
Spicy G.